Welcome to the World Poetry Cafe. This is the adult tent. My name is Roger Stevens. I'm going to read some poems, sing a couple of songs. I come from Brighton in England. At the moment I'm staying in France. Might tell you a little bit about that later on. This poem is called No Star Hotel. Never stay at the Heartbreak Hotel. Try the Travel-Inn on the corner. If you stay at the Inn of Loneliness, both the staff and the guests will ignore you. For a weekend break, that's a bad mistake. Don't say I didn't warn you. You'll be so lonely you will cry. Likewise, the Hotel California. This is called Descartes' famous axiom. As Descartes originally wrote, I am fed up with French food, I think, therefore I am going out for a nice curry. I think got lost in the translation a little bit there. Another philosophical poem. This is as Kierkegaard might have said. Ring a roses, a pocket full of posies. Entropy, the planet drifts into the meaningless universe, and so we might as well give up now, really. Cheery poem. This is called Sad and Disappointed. When I'm that close to promotion, but my best mate's made the boss, when a sea breeze hits the seaside and steals my candy floss, when the woman I was wooing says she couldn't give a toss, I get sad and disappointed and just a little cross. When the rice burns on the bottom and the cheddar turns out mild, when the internet connection's not the one my PC dialed, when the kitchen needs rewiring and it's just been newly tiled, I get sad and disappointed and just a little riled. When the rhythm of my writing's interrupted or disturbed by a masked man with a comma and an intransitive verb, or my passion for a parenthesis has been unfairly curbed, I get sad and disappointed and sometimes quite perturbed. When the elements of our first kiss cannot be recreated, when I wait and no one shows, despite the way my breath is baited, when I slide onto the dance floor and my steps are out of dated, I get sad and disappointed and a tad infuriated. When I'm De Niro's understudy but never make the stage, when my eloquent soliloquy stays rooted on the page, when I feel I'm getting younger but I've nearly reached old age, I get sad and disappointed and a lesser form of rage. When you wave your magic wand and you lift the witch's curse, when you say let's play at hospitals and you'll be the night nurse, when you tell me that you love me in a neatly crafted verse, I'm never sad or disappointed. In fact, quite the reverse. I want to sing a song, and I had a friend and we were talking and his parents had died, and he was saying there were so many things he didn't know about them. He didn't know how they first met. And I was thinking about my grandparents and so much I didn't know about them. And then I thought of this song. It's called Too Late Now. Did you ever wonder How did your mama and your dada meet? Do you ever wonder how they configured you? Did you ever ask your mama, how did she and your dada meet? If you didn't, maybe it's something that you ought to do. Was she wearing a pretty dress? Did they dance by candlelight? Did they wish upon a star? Did they own the night? Or is it too late now? The train has left the station, it's too late now. Heading for some other destination far away. Who knows where or when? My friend, is it too late now? Wonder, how did your dada and your mama meet? What stories they could relate? Did you ever ask your dada, how did he and your mama meet? If you didn't, maybe it's something you ought to do before it gets too late. Was he dressed to kill? Did he make her proud? Did he sweep her off her feet? Were his jokes too loud? Or is it too late now? The train has gone, it's too late now. All you've got left is this song that you hear on the radio from so long ago. You know, and it's too late now, too late now, and it's too late now. Yeah, got to talk to your parents, grandparents. So I was thinking about my mother, and I was thinking of writing a poem about my mother. She's in a home now, one of those homes for people who can't remember things. This is very worrying, as both my mother and my father's mother both had the disease, and it's obviously on both sides of the family. It affects your short-term memory first. I mean, have you ever found yourself walking into a room and wondering why you're there? We're clearing out our parents' house, my sisters and I, boxes and boxes of accumulated stuff, rubbish, ordinary things, one or two treasures. Dad's suits are still hanging in the wardrobe, destined for the charity shop. They'll probably be fashionable again by now. He died 15 years ago. We also found a brush with hair attached. Could be Dad's DNA. Think of that. Of course, the dog died around the same time. Or it could be Mum's hair. Mum is still with us. She's in a home now. One of those homes for people who can't remember things. This is very worrying, as both my mother and my dad's mother had that disease. It's in both sides of the family. It affects your short-term memory first. I mean, have you ever found yourself walking into a poem and wondering how it's going to end. There are one or two little short poems. I wrote this one in the Seattle Art Museum. I was walking around the museum with Jill, my wife. We're just sort of walking around, and I'm making notes in my notebook. And one of the attendants came rushing up and said, "You can't write, you can't use a pen. You're not allowed to use a pen." I said, "Why? What?" She didn't tell me why. I can't imagine if you're going to poke the paintings with a pen or what. But she was very good. She went off and she got me a little pencil so I could write in my notebook in pencil. This is my poem. It's called Tea Ceremony. Sadly, in the Seattle Art Museum, we didn't have time to watch the Japanese tea ceremony video. It's called Cloud or Clouds. When recently attending a wound, I was struck by how much the cotton wool resembled clouds. And this is called My Father's Job. My father's job was to remove the feathers from pheasants by gently plucking, a job he found to be very enjoyable. Now, I think that's a very British, that comes from a very British kind of source, so you may not recognise it. It's almost like a folk poem. It's like a folk tongue twister. The original goes, I am not the pheasant plucker. I'm the pheasant plucker's son. I'm only plucking pheasants till the pheasant plucker comes. Obviously, you have to read it fast. Which kind of reminds me, I don't know if you know the poem Peter Piper picked a pickled pepper, pick a prickled pepper. That's silly, isn't it? You can't say that. I mean, it's just, who would write a poem you can't even say? So I've written my own version of Peter Piper. Hope you like it. I think I've improved it quite a lot. Peter Piper chose a large number of peppers that had been soaked in vinegar and spices. A large number of peppers that had been soaked in vinegar and spices were chosen by Peter Piper. If it is indeed true that Peter Piper chose a number of peppers that had been soaked in vinegar and spices, where are they? This is another sort of British poem, really. It's about a pub. And I suppose you may appreciate this more if you are British, if you come from Britain. And probably if you're sort of over about 40 or 50 years old. So if you're young, it might not mean much to you. It's a bit of a moany old poem. It's a sonnet, actually. This is a sonnet. I like a nice sonnet. I'm sorry that I have to break the news, but I'm afraid things aren't as they appear. And seemingly straightforward things confuse. You do sell spirits, cider, wine and beer. Your customers upon those fancy stalls do moan or boast of bloody conquests past, or talk about the game and why the rules are wrong, but that's a cocktail in that glass. Those rows of vintage wines, the skinny latte, the decaf, the rolling news, the chef from France, the art by Jean-Pierre Antoine de Monet, and whether the bar billiards, or the darts. Perchance you dream, aye, there's the ready rub. You are a trendy wine bar, not a pub. Well, these are very, very difficult times, aren't they? This is just a little song that I wrote before the virus pandemic. It's kind of appropriate, really. It's called "If You Were the Only Girl in the World." If you were the only girl in the world, and the only boy was me, the pharmaceuticals would last a while, and the food in the shops would be free. And as the city fell to the brambles and the weeds, there'd be no internet or TV shows, but there'd sure be plenty to read. We'd live on beans and berries and homemade dandelion tea, and I would look after you and love you, and you'd do the same for me. We'd have to deal with the zombies, but our love would see us through. If I was the only boy in the world, and the only girl was you. Yeah. So this is one of my albums. I think my albums get a mention in my biography. What I didn't mention in my biography, can you see that? There we go. What I didn't mention in my biography is that I do have a shop where you can buy these things. It's called Roger Stevens Shop, all one word, .com. It's dead easy to find. This is called Visitor. It's a lesser known fact that Shakespeare once visited Brighton. An unexpected day off from the Globe, an infestation of rats. He takes a coach down with his girlfriend Anne, and soon they're strolling along the pier. An ancient mariner argues with his daughters. Anne plays the slots while Will sips a beer. He leans over at the rail, staring at the sea splashing the supports. It imagines the plot to King Lear. It's another very English poem. I set out to read poems really from all corners of the globe. I don't know how many corners the globe has. This is a pun-based poem, so I apologise in advance. It's about cricket. Of course, if you don't know anything about cricket, this will be meaningless. It will do that thing. I apologise for that too. I fancy Millie, the captain of the girls' cricket team. She's a real catch. She bowls me over. She's got a wicked smile that creases me up. I want to ask her out, but I don't know how to pitch it. It's got me stumped. She knocks me for 6, but my love for her knows no boundaries. This one comes from Vancouver Island. And it starts out with my notebook, writing notes and things that I'm walking around the town of Victoria, spotting different things. It develops into this. And so, I was wondering how these notes and scribbles could be fashioned into poems. The chew dog technology at the pampered pet shop, for example. The tequila mockingbird. Hearse's cartage, careful since 1890. The mythical feats of the shaman, the warriors, the spiritual beings. And then, in Victoria, I found a book of poems by Billy Collins in a sale at Munro's. It led me in a series of verbal winks, poetic gestures and subtle movement of vowels along the sidewalk and around the writer's block to this small coffee shop where I have purchased some handcrafted phrases and am waiting to drink those freshly brewed metaphors that smell so sweet, so warm, served by the small Italian waitress with the delicate hands, in Chinese porcelain with brush-stroke mountains and bamboo. This is called Not Arial, Not Times Roman. If I could invent a font, I would call it All Knowledge. And this next poem is not really mine, it's a joke I heard, but I was so taken with it, I just sort of put it into the form of a small poem. I didn't really write it, but for entertainment's sake, I'm going to read it. It's called Zoo. When we were young, my brother and I had a zoo. It only had one animal, our dog. It was a Shih Tzu. This is called It Doesn't Get Any Better Than This. This was written in France, where I am now. Jill's parents, about 30 years ago, decided they were going to buy a house in France. And Jill's dad then was 70. And we thought, well, they're going to retire to France. That would be nice. They'll buy a nice little cottage somewhere. That'd be lovely. But they bought this kind of rambling farmhouse that was falling down, with a barn falling down, the roof gone on the stables. It was a proper project. That was 30 years ago. And so it's somewhere we come for holidays. But Jill and I are here for the duration of this terrible pandemic that's going on. But this was written in the town, in the local town. My wife and I are sitting in the evening sunshine in the Place d'Hôtel de Ville in Loche. And I'm thinking, life doesn't get any better than this. An Orléans jazz band are playing in the corner, and they are very good indeed. And I sip my glass of red and I think, life doesn't get any better than this. Then an old friend sits beside us and she rests her head on my shoulder, and I get a whiff of Sex with Jennifer, 1967. And I'm thinking, life doesn't get any better than this. And a text comes through with a massive win on the Euro Millions. And I'm thinking, life really doesn't get any better than this. The evening sun, the music, and Paul McCartney and Adele are strolling past They see us come over and sing us an impromptu duet of a song that Paul composes on the spot. And I'm thinking, life doesn't get any better than this. But they have a date at La Flèche d'Or in Paris, playing to an intimate gathering of the world's movers and shakers. They leave with our friend, and I get another text. The win on the Euro Millions was only a few euros after all. Now the band play their last number and begin to pack away, and we finish the bottle of wine. The last of the sun slips from the apricot sky, darkening the ancient buildings of worn stone. And my wife and I look into one another's eyes and kiss. And I'm thinking, do you know what? It really was a great shame about the text. Okay, so that's about it from me. There's a sort of hat thing down there. So if you want to give me some money, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you. You don't have to. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to finish. Actually, I'll do this poem, and I'll do a little song to finish. This poem, this is my very best poem. Of all my poems, it's the best. Ask anyone who knows my work, it's head and shoulders above the rest. Its rhythm moves slowly like a river, not showy like a quick, clever stream. Its metaphor glides. It's a swan on the tide. Well, not a tide, but you know what I mean. Its rhymes are subtle, internal, nuanced, using assonance, half-rhyme and stuff. Its stripy, ripe apricot, its palate is delicate, but its meaning is rock-hard and tough. At first sight, this poem is simple, like a long road that hasn't a bend. But the story it tells soon begins ringing bells, like a church on the death of a friend. Take Simon and Claire, for example, and their hopeless and doomed love affair. For he fooled around and lived underground, and she was a Chippendale chair. And yes, this poem is nonsense. But, and this is the crucial bit, at its heart there is heart. And at its feet there's a beat. And as poems go, it's my best. Okay, so thank you very much. Keep safe. Look out for one another. These are difficult times. So I'm going to finish with this little song. And I wrote this because you may have gathered, or you may have guessed, we're very sad, my wife and I, that we've left the European Union, Britain. My wife got very, very upset about it. When Trump came into power, she got very upset about that as well. In fact, she got very depressed about the whole thing. So I wrote this song to try and cheer her up. It's called Don't Let It Get You Down. And of course things have got even worse now, haven't they? So I thought it might be appropriate to finish with this. Don't let it get you down. Well, we lost another chicken, fox got in the yard. Snow's coming down, the winter's gonna be hard. When they shuffled the deck, you drew the wrong card. Don't let it get you down. Strange men preaching round the neighbourhood. If you don't believe in God, you better knock on wood. You could tweet the Pope from his home in Hollywood. Don't let it get you down. Oh, I'm very sorry about that. I love you, you love me. I guess we are lucky that way. When the world is crumbling around your feet, count your blessings, as my grandma used to say. Well, what you gotta do to get a drink in this town? If you're different in some way, the barriers come crashing down. I thought I was a professor, turns out I'm a clown. Don't let it get you down, no, no. Look at that baby, ain't she sweet? Living with her mother out on the street. Ain't it a shame they ain't got enough to eat? Don't let it get you down. Well, the bees are gone, no more honey. Bottom line is they didn't make enough money. But there's some puppies on Facebook, ain't they funny? Don't let it get you down. Now I love you, you love me. I guess we are lucky that way. When the world comes crumbling around your feet, count your blessings, as my grandma used to say. It's the end of the world, the sky's getting dark. Nobody said that life was a walk in the park. Shout out loud when the dogs begin to bark. Don't let it get you down. I heard you sobbing in the middle of the night. I want to help you, baby, but I can't put it right. But I can tell you this, we ain't going down without a fight. Don't let it get you down. Don't let it get you down, oh no. Don't let it get ya. Don't let it get you down. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.